Good evening. I just want to welcome everyone here, to the voices of the politicians, to the voices of the stakeholders, and to the voices of the students, in which we are addressing social issues that we believe that can be able to change the face of juvenile justice and stop the education pipeline to jail. And what we are addressing are mental health, we're addressing restoration justice, and of course we are the workforce development. All three of those are very essential to be able to help our youth, and we believe that this will create a better atmosphere and environment and create a safe community. If all of you believe in that, just say yes, yes, yes. We can do it. Because we are not just talking. And that's what we come to a lot of conferences, and we talk and we talk and we talk. We talk about the problem. But today we are showing you people who are actually making a change. And so we're going to start first with our politician. My student is not here yet. He just sent a text saying he'd be here in a few minutes. But I tell you, Delegate Elizabeth said this. She got to go because she got somewhere else. She's a very busy woman, and I understand why. I helped her with her campaign before. We had a good time, didn't we? We always have a good time. But we got things done, didn't we?
That's right.
That's right. So today, what I'm going to ask is, right now I'm going to sort of like liberate it because I'm trying to remember the question. But one of the questions is, I know, what can big time corporations do to be able to provide wealth within the deserted places that need to be, and where these youth need to be helped?
So let me properly introduce myself. I am Delegate Elizabeth Guzman. I represent the 31st District in the House of Delegates, which includes parts of Prince William and Fauquier County. And I was elected in 2017 as one of the first Latinas ever elected to the Virginia Assembly. As part of my career, I serve as a Casa Cis child advocate in the court system. So I have seen firsthand the amount of discrimination and the disparities among the criminal justice system in general. So when you're asking me about corporations, there's a few things that we could do from the state level, but corporations could do on their own as well. And I would start by saying that we could create a system where actually we can provide an incentive to corporations that will hire people with a criminal background, And many individuals have these charges when they were young. We all have been there. You know, we're lucky that we're here today and blessed, but we make mistakes. And I think that we should continue to be the country of the second chances. And these individuals, if we were able to provide incentives to corporations, they could hire and train individuals with a criminal record so they can become part of their workforce. I also think there are ways for corporations to participate in the community. So for example, there is an organization called Valhan, and what they do is they provide, because many times children who look like us, it's not that they are not smart, it's just a lack of opportunities, right? Many of us are first generation, graduated from college or having a master's degree, but many of us had to figure it out and work the system ourselves. So what corporations could do is invest in these nonprofits that can educate children in these low-income areas, high schools, and take them to a university over the weekend, and teach them what is available to them. What opportunities, scholarships, there are so many opportunities for children of color for, besides sports, that sometimes we cannot even afford to send our children. So they have to compete, they're smart, but some of the schools have to meet the demographics as well. So So if these corporations create these seminars or conferences where they can bring these children from low-income areas and keep them in a school like UVA or Virginia Tech, so they can be exposed so what is available to them, and sponsor these events where these children could go for free, and then they could have panelists of members who look like us that can tell them. It's important for them to see people who look like them that are succeeding in society. So once they see us and they talk to us, how do we do it? I think if corporations are willing to invest in this type of events, we could have a better society and more equitable.
I think that's a very good answer. Guess what? The chairperson just arrived.
All
You can
right.
come right on up.
How y'all doing today?
Oh,
you in my seat. No wonder I haven't seen you.
Yeah. I want to introduce you to the chairperson. His name is Lowell Tins. Tines. I like Tins. Lowell Tines. Lowell is an entrepreneur and entertainer, and he's also helped me to actually write the policy. Remember you just said about the corporations to be able to do that, but that's one of the things that Lowell does. Lowell actually is a little entrepreneur, and Lowell, I'm just going to let you go ahead and tell the rest about yourself,
Right to it.
and then you can go ahead and
Okay.
take it over.
Anyway, how y'all doing? Thank y'all for taking the time to meet with us on this Saturday. You know what I'm saying? My name is Lowell Tynes II. I go by Lo Maceo, mainly. I'm a VCU graduate. I graduated from VCU Mass Comm program with a dual bachelor's in creative and strategic advertising. So right now I'm currently self-employed. I act as a creative director. So I manage like creative talents from like DJs to videographers, producers, stuff like that. So I'm in the business of creative solutions. I met Miss Charity a little over a year and a half ago. I was awarded the iPower 30 Under 30 top influencers in Richmond. She approached me when I spoke at the Minority Business League. Which one? Which was it?
Minority Business
Oh
League.
yes. And she's been emailing me and calling me ever since, and we've been building everything. We've been here, we've been there, we've been in community forums. Just a month ago, we were at Union. It was like 3 weeks ago. We were at Union talking about the same problem. So I'm just here to help Miss Charity push her vision, our vision, and get this restorative, reformative justice thing underway.
You have the questions for the delegate, Guzman, right? So will you ask her the rest of the questions? I just asked her the one about the...
question.
I'm sorry, we just got right into it.
Yeah. And what he's looking, I mean,
Yes.
the reason why we are busy is because there's an election year.
Yeah.
All right, there's a November 5th election, and we need to get out the vote and vote. Most of localities across the Commonwealth also have local elections. And when we talk about criminal justice reform, we need, at least from the state level and from a community level, good partners, to allies. I would call them allies that actually believe in criminal justice reform. So please do your research. Sheriff, Commonwealth Attorney, county supervisors are individuals who actually need to have the same beliefs that our system is broken, and they could actually work with the community, with the state, and the state with the Commonwealth Attorney and Sheriff, so we can bring reform to reality. So please do your research, go to the Virginia Department of Elections, check the candidates that are running on criminal justice reform. That's very important.
Okay. Can you just give me a little bit?
Okay.
So to go along with that, the county, so I'm running for the county board, for example, and folks are always sort of tuned into only the national level, president, Congress, stuff like that, and now people are starting to tune into the state, but at the end of the day, public defender's offices, for example, get set up by the county, not the state government. The Commonwealth Attorney's Office is funded by the county more than anyone else. So when Delegate Guzman is talking about making sure there's local partners, what she's talking about is boards of supervisors, town councils, city councils. Actually, we even want to set these things up. So where we're from, Prince William, we don't have a public defender's office. We don't have a drug court. We don't have very many diversionary programs. and we'll get into it when they get to the question to me, but our jail right now, our detention center, although we're spending millions of dollars to enforce federal immigration law, we have a shortfall in terms of local law enforcement in that. There's a shortage of counselors, there's a revolving door in there. So it's all about having the right people in the right place, have the right mindset when it comes to moving everything forward, because at the end of the day, if there's not enough people at the table to look like us and have our values, that's when things fall apart.
And when we talk about, for example, judges, right? So judges, once they are appointed, they should be a reflection of the community. So in Prince William County, it's a majority-minority county. And the majority of the judges do not look like the community. So the new delegation from the state we have made a priority to recruit judges who look like the community, so they understand our struggles and we can have a better system. So if you're looking ways to get engaged, if you know any attorneys in your communities, and ask them, would you be willing to run as a judge? And if they are available, they can connect to my office, to the state delegation, because the process for judges, those positions are paid by the state. So the representatives at the state level for those positions are the ones who recruit and interview for those positions. So we're going to talk about that later, but if you know someone that could play an important role in that position, you can reach out to your state delegate, to your state senator, and say, I would like so-and-so to become the next judge. As your constituent, I would like for you to support this person and interview this person.
So what can the voters do?
What can voters do? So I think that many of the things, once we talk about voters to get out and vote and participate in the elections, that's great. But what I want you to know that as voters, once you cast a ballot for an individual person, that person has that responsibility to listen to you, to listen to your concerns. And I think that an elected official should run on accessibility, right? It has to be accessible to that community. So as a voter, you can reach out to your representatives and let them know what is going on in the real world, right? I'm going to use one example. I was having lunch in a restaurant in my district, and there is this lady who comes and approached me, and she said, "Are you Elizabeth Guzman? Are you the state delegate from Prince William County?" And I said, "Yes. Well, I need help because I was incarcerated when I was 17 years old. Now I am 38. I'm a mother of 3 children. I went to school. I'm paying my loans. But I have a master's degree, but I have to work as a waitress." She said, how is this country the country of second chances? I pay my time for whatever mistakes that I had in the past. But then I apply for a position, I have the qualifications, but then once they look at my criminal background check, they never call me back. And when you fill out the application, it's asking you, have you been incarcerated within the past 5 years? Have you had a felony within the past 5 years? So that was, for me, an opportunity of legislation that I can introduce that other states have, like it's Bandaba. So none of the employers should have access to your life before those last 5 years. And that's something that I want to work on. So you never know how your life experience could help actually develop a policy that could improve the life of other individuals. So please make your voices heard. If your delegate does not have time to get to you or to meet with you on the phone or in person, there's always a next election and you can replace that person. That's how powerful you are as a voter.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me ask a quick question. In terms of voters, they don't understand the power that they have. Example, when you vote for someone some of the time to look like us, you get better representation. If they don't understand that, they don't understand the whole civics behind it. How do you get them engaged?
So I think that in 2017, when I was talking about Prince William County being a majority-minority county, I was the first Latina ever running in Prince William County in history in Prince William County, where Latinos are 34% of the population. Now, one thing that I've seen is the amount of people when they open their door, and I'm not talking about just the brown, I'm talking about the African American, I'm talking about the Muslim. But when I was knocking on doors and they see somebody who looked like them, a person of color, they were telling me, "Are you running for office? Oh my gosh, nobody like you ran before. How, you are so brave. How can you run in this country being an immigrant and being out there?" And I said, "I'm doing it for my children." Because with this president that we had in the White House, when he's demonizing people who look like me, and I'm ripping families apart on the border, that's personal to me. I think that's an immigrant, I become resilient, right? Because in the back of my mind, I know I wasn't born here. And I'm thankful for the opportunities that I had to achieve education, a professional life, but when it has to do with my children that were born here, and they look like me and their last name is Guzman, it's about their future. And if we don't get involved now, what is going to be their future? So I think that it is hard to explain, but you inspire people. These girls, that when they are children of single parents and they said, "Oh, my mom also had 3 jobs like you because I was raised by a single parent." Or these girls I was a teenage mom and I had my first child when I was 18. I never thought that I would have, access to higher education. But then when they see these young girls with their babies and they see me and they said, "If you could do it, I could do it too. It's possible." So I think the more representatives that we have to look like the community, there is hope in the future. And voters have been waiting for many years to see that. And we're not talking about race, we're talking about also gender, for example. Before 2017, females are the largest population in Virginia. However, in a body that has 100 members, before 2017, there were only 17 females out of 100-member body. We increased those numbers to 28, but now this year we had the largest amount of females running for office, which is 49 women running for office. So you see how it works? It's like as soon as people see that they could do it, and it's not easy, because I'm going to be honest with you. I was told that a person Virginia was not ready for a brown person with an accent. I was told who's going to take care of your children while you're going to serve in the legislation. The legislature is a part-time job that you get paid $18,000 a year. So how can you survive on that salary? I have a full-time job. So that's my part-time job. And they were telling me, how are you going to juggle multiple responsibilities? And my answer to them was, I'm sure those males who are serving in the legislature, they need to have another job. I'm sure many of them have children. And if they can do it, I can do it too. And that's the message. And then you see last year in 2018, the amount of people of color that run for office, females. So it creates an environment of trust in the system, but then at the same time, hope to the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, my question is, I understand that we want people who represent the community that you are from, right? Whether it's an African American community, Hispanic community, Latin American community, you want that representation. But how do we go beyond just the physical representation of that and make sure that the mentality actually represents the community? Because we're all kind of indoctrinated by what the predominant society places on us, how we think, what we do, how we behave. So how do we go beyond just that physical representation of that person, but actually for the people?
Mm-hmm. So I think that on that you have to talk about your life experiences, and it be interesting how your struggles were the same struggles of many people. When we talk about values, like when we talk about treating people with dignity and respect, when we talk about keeping our community safe, when you talk about values, you know, people care about values, care about their future. And I think it's about what are you fighting for? I mean, the question was in reference to race, but when we talk about values, values have no, you know, no race. It's about what you believe in. What are you fighting for? And it's not about, I don't think it's, I think it's a holistic area where you have to look at multiple factors. But when I think about, when I developed my policy, when I decided to run for office, and I built my top 3 issues, I didn't have anybody to tell me what was needed. It was my life. You know, as a single mother, when I had to struggle for childcare, or I wasn't able to afford early childhood education, I knew there was a need in the community about early childhood education. And those struggles was the struggles of many people who live in my district. When I had to have 3 jobs to make ends meet and to afford a 1-bedroom apartment in Northern Virginia, when we still live in a society that's $7.25, you know, it was the struggle of individuals in my district too. So it's about what you bring to the table, not only, I mean, racially, but also your life experience. You know, how can you change the future for these individuals that had the same struggles? And when talking about the minimum wage, for example, what I tell, because there is also this, well, if we increase the minimum wage, then the wealthy or the corporations will be able to afford. You know, they will be able to afford, they will make less money, less profit, but they have to invest in individuals. Why? Because you know who loses at the end? Children. Because then you're going to spend enough time with your children. And that's the message that I tell people. And that resonates with them.
Great. I apologize for not being on time, because what you're saying is exactly what, you know, we've been hearing around. We just got to connect the dots, you know, make sure and make that push forward. I mean, I really, I don't know. I'm really speechless, honestly. I'm confounded by this opportunity to meet with y'all, Supervisor.
Yeah, if I could go back to a question that you asked also.
Okay.
And Elizabeth, Delegate Guzman alluded to it earlier. Another way that we could connect to our communities and really break that sort of wall of apathy that's fallen a lot of voters is we knock on people's doors. We, between the two of us, have knocked on thousands of doors in our community. And that isn't just to say, hey, I'm running for office, vote for me. How we do it is, the very first thing is, I'm running to represent you. What are your concerns? What do you care about? What keeps you up at night?
Meet them where they are.
Right, exactly. Meet them where they are. And it's amazing how much people will bare their souls to you, even if you're just there for the first time, what they care about. And usually it's, you know, everyday life stuff. You know, oh, my kid goes to a school where you know, things are falling apart. Or, oh, it takes me 2 hours to get to work every day and then 2 hours back. Or, oh, hey, I have to commute up to somewhere else because around where we live, 725-hour jobs. Like, they're just common things. And once you're able to connect with them on that, you know, they can then talk about what you're going to do to help them through that struggle. And sometimes it's usually as simple as that. Being that person, actually sit there like, I'm here, I'm an open book, I'm here to listen to you. And it's amazing how few there are people in life that are willing to do that. And to get back to the whole values part of it, really, if we're talking about policy, a lot of the folks that used to represent, especially our community, that were all predominantly white, predominantly male, a lot of this stuff was just theoretical to them. It wasn't lived experience, to Elizabeth's point, or to your experience, to your explanation earlier too. But when you actually have people that have lived that struggle, me, for example, I come from a low-income community in Los Angeles where there are bullet holes in my windows. My older brother was put in and out of the system so many times that when my mother passed away 3 years ago, we couldn't find him. None of this stuff is theoretical to me. That's my lived experience. So when you're going to ask for someone to represent you, you know that someone who's lived that struggle is going to fight a hell of a lot harder than someone who's theoretical to you. But that's the other point on why you do need to be involved. A lot of folks, I'll be real here, 2008 happened. Obama got elected. A lot of people walked away after that election. Am I right?
True.
And as a result, in 2010, we lost Congress. In 2012, we lost it even more. We only finally started gaining back people with our values in 2016, 2017. That's because people thought the first and last duty they have is voting. But it's not. I know it's a lot to ask for people, especially if they have daily, busy lives, families, work, what have you. But our democracy only works when we're kept accountable too. And that means folks staying constantly engaged, sharing your experiences with those that seek to represent you. Because, I mean, we can talk about it all day. Running for office is hard, and you start getting surrounded by a lot of people that don't look like us, who don't have our experiences. Because we need money to run for office and win. And that means that, unfortunately, we have to spend money. We have to spend time with people that are going to be able to give us money. Now, we can keep ourselves grounded because we're real, but other people, they start to stray. So what I'm saying here is that this only works when it's a give and take. Not a, hey, I sent you there, now do your job. That's on us, but as long as you keep checking with us. Hey, I see that you're not doing what you said you were going to do. Hey, you haven't had a town hall in 3 or 4 months, what have you. Or hey, we're getting time to election. I haven't seen you since when you first got elected. What's up? Keeping it real with your elected officials.
Another question. Help me put it in perspective. Well, we only vote during the presidential. Why is it important for me to vote local state elections?
Because those are the ones that should matter to you the most. Because you know what we discuss at the state level, at the local level? Public education, criminal justice reform, schools, roads. Those are your day-to-day life issues. So those are, I would say, most important. And when I was knocking on doors and I was talking to people from our communities, they would tell me, oh, but I always vote. And I said, when is the last time did you vote? Oh, I vote every 4 years. Are there any other election? And I say, yes, in Virginia there's an election every year in November. Every year. Something that is wrong, we need to change, right? Because it's not the case in any other states. But I would say that the state and local elections are the ones that are should be more personal to you, more relevant, because it's your life, your future, your children on the ballot in local and state elections.
I have a question. You mentioned about the gap. How can you see yourself knocking that wall down, building the bridge between the baby boomers and the millennials?
Sure, that's a great question. Because there's folks that are our age, right? I'll lump you in here too, Miss Millennial. Even though millennials represent now the largest folks that could be potentially the largest voting bloc in society right now in America, we don't.
Why?
Vote. And part of that is apathy. I think another part of it is at least people that are my age. I'm 32, full disclosure. My formative years came late 90s, early 2000s. What happened around then? The Iraq War. What happened then? 9/11. We were raised in a culture of people lying to us from our government in order to send our friends overseas to die in a war that was unjustified. Why would you trust a system that does that? We grew up in a system where we're told, go to school, go to college, nothing against GMU, get a job, you'll be fine. That was like it for the Gen Xers, that was like it for the boomers. I'm sorry, I've been out of college for 10 years. I went to Georgetown University. I'm still paying off my college debt. There was no jobs for me when I graduated in 2009, because I was competing not only with my peers, but for people that were being laid off and the downturn. What we were promised growing up, the hard work we put in that we were told would pay off, did not happen. And again, like I said, we had friends that went overseas, that went to die for a country under false pretenses. That's where we're coming from a place of cynicism and not really seeing where we get what we put in. Now, how do we fix that? Delegate Guzman made a really good point. Seeing more people that have our lived experience actually pushing for that stuff. Seeing that we can make it. But to get back to your overall point, to bridge that gap, from our perspective, part of it has to be making people uncomfortable. Going into spaces that people don't think we should be in. We do that all the time. We go to places all the time where it's predominantly white, older people that are from multi-million dollars. And just our presence makes them uncomfortable. And then bring it back to what I said earlier, then you have a conversation with that person. And then you're no longer just a brown face in a crowd of white. You're no longer a person that represents an other, that they've been conditioned as a white person for years to think that there's an alienness about that. You're a person to them now. You have your experience. You've worked hard throughout your entire life. You struggled in ways they couldn't even imagine. And some of them will begin to understand that you're, one, another person, but two, that you bring something to the table. It's not an easy process. It's not an immediate thing. But they realize that, one, not all of us millennials are just avocado toast baristas and living in our parents' basements. But those that aren't just because they're lazy. It's because they tried to make it in a world that told them to do X, Y, and Z and didn't work out the way they were told. Being able to explain that at the end of the day, even if we do come from different times, we have the same values. Someone who's a boomer, someone who's 50, 60, 70 years old, my dad's 78, my mom would have been 65. They raised me with the same values that the boomers have right now. Hard work, wanting to uplift everyone, not just opposed to a chosen few, and being able to see beyond just what's in front of your nose, to see a future where we're providing for everyone as opposed to just the people that have right now.
Thank you. I do have another question. As I was saying earlier, Lowell actually helped wrote the proposal to Governor Northern for $1.5 million. And our goal is to use that money as a research for the college students. And that is for college students who are in Northern Virginia, in Richmond, and in the Portsmouth area, or they're in the Tidewater area. And they are to be able, say, to mentor and to work with the juvenile offenders, okay? And then in the meantime, what we also want to do is take that research, give it to the policy, to the policymakers, and have them to change those laws, because we have the statistics showing that what we are doing, it works. So how can you, as an individual, help? Is get in contact with your senators and have them to write a letter to the Secretary of Finances. And he would give it to the governor in January 2020. They will have to vote on it, to put that $1.5 million to make it a budget amendment. So if we get enough senators, we have Elizabeth, Delegate Elizabeth did it. We have about 3 senators that we have letters. But I need you as a voter, you who want to do something about it, to call your senator, write him a letter, and say, look, I need you to write a letter. I will even send you an example. So what you do is you sign up on the table back there when you leave. Give me your information. I will send you the sample of the letter that we have, and each one of you send it to your senator to say, and that would be what? Providing jobs, providing policy change, and it would be providing reducing recidivism. So those are the things that you can do as a voter, because you know what? You got the power, and they will be willing to do it because they want to stay involved in office. So you got to use your power. You got to use your voice. And we're educating you tonight because we want to set people free. And we want to employ people. And especially the ones who need to be employed and need to be set free. We can no longer allow the system to keep us in bondage. That pipeline to jail
is real.
Is real? But not only, it's enslaving our young people. It's enslaving them. And we don't want the United States to be built on slaves anymore. We want the United States to be built on entrepreneurs. See the difference? We are transforming, and that's why we wanted to say the colleges to get involved, because in that way, the college students can be able to say, help pay that debt off on that internship. See what I'm saying? That college student will be able to even get job experience in psychology, criminology, sociology. So you be getting two things. So you have that right as a person who is a voter, and you can do something about it. Okay? How many college students do we have in here tonight? All right? Right there. Right there. Any more? You're one that represents George Mason. I'm giving you an assignment. You hear me, young man?
I'm going to school though, but I'll take the assignment anyway.
All right.
What school you go to?
I'm going to Nova right now, but I graduated in 2004 from Stratford. I just look a lot younger than what I am.
Oh, okay. All right. But you still, look, you still young man.
We don't crack, what can I say? Right?
Yeah, you know, I'm 36 grade. My daughter's in high school, so, you know.
But you see what I'm saying? And any of you who knows your senators, you can do that too, you know? Get in contact with your senator, write that letter to him, and make him stand accountable. Don't have them to say, we go run on this issue, and this is what we're going to do until we get it into the office. You hear what I'm saying? All right, now, any more questions? Any more questions? Okay, everyone, sign your name back there, and we're going to bring change. We are bringing change to the face of juvenile justice, right? We all in it together. I want everybody to say yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
We're going to do it.
Before I leave, I just want for everybody's awareness. A 14-year-old in Virginia can be tried as an adult. And not only that, but once that juvenile is tried as an adult, he will be tried as an adult until he turns 18. Now, when we're talking about for the parents in the house, like myself, you know, I've seen my daughters, you know, sometimes getting into trouble just because of running their mouths. So, you know, how can we just children like that from 14 years of age and just pretty much determine their future? We need to change that. I mean, if there's a study out there where not even your brain is fully developed until you are 25 years of age. So many of these juveniles, you know, get trapped in the school to prisons pipelines. And even the schools with the type of mental, you know, health resources is not available. And sometimes it's a behavior problem. I can tell you that I have parents that reach out to me and complain, for example, this is a very recent, a child is ripping papers apart when he's in class. And that child of color was accused of damaging people's property, an index card. So this child was given demerit because of that. The teacher never investigated what made this child take that action. And this child was being bullied in his classroom, and that was a response to his anxiety because he was frustrated because nobody listened to him. When we're using words like damaging people's property, they are big words. But that is the reality of many children in our society. So we need money to educate people So they could be not only, educated culturally, but also with society and mental health awareness.
Yes.
So when you are seeing what you could do as a voter, ask your candidates to invest in mental health. It is not a stigma, it's an illness, and it can be treated with medicine and therapy. Don't allow those children to get trapped on the criminal justice system and the school to prisons pipeline, and help your elected officials get educated so that money could go to the schools and teachers, principals. School counselors are licensed mental health therapists, but when they are challenged with a caseload of 1,000 students, what can they do? But teachers should be trained as well. Principals, school resource officers, they should be trained as well. So please make your voices heard. And this is an election year, I have to go to my next event, but it's exciting to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's give her a big hand, and thank you so much. Oh, I truly appreciate it. Look, get this.
All right, go. Go ahead.
We will be going to our next roundtable discussion, in which Delegate Guzman will share about mental health. That's what we will be talking about, mental health. How we are including mental health in the program in which we are administrating through that proposal that we sent to the governor. Okay? I have some powerful people with us this evening. I tell you, they are.
You can be here.
Yeah, what's happening?
Help her with your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
All right.
Yeah, that was great. I have some powerful people. They are people are influenced, and they can really make decisions. They can really change the government, can't they? Yeah. My first person is Earl McDowell. He's a senior consultant of prison reentry. He's with the Office of Economic Impact on Diversity. He's also a professor with criminal justice, right? All right. With your experience in the criminal justice system, do you believe that some criminals are hopeless and can't be helped?
Hopeless and can't be helped. I saw that question. I said, that's really like a stigma person, hopeless and can't be helped. Everybody can be helped, as far as I'm concerned. And I think when people are put that label on them, then they begin to take on that persona. Because when we tell a person in words, they take it on. So when I was a probation officer, I deal with juveniles a great deal. So you never want to tell a person they're hopeless and they can't make it. Because everybody can make it. I made it, you made it, we all made it. Sometimes people take a different route to get where they have to go, but they still can make it. So I think it's really important that you really, especially in that line of work, boost the person up for them to do well. Because I know when I was a probation officer right out of college, excited about it, being a probation officer, working with juveniles, and you have those cases that you're doing a great job and they're going to do well.
Baby kids.
And they don't do well. And that kind of hurts you a little bit because you put a lot of energy in it. And then you go back and say, okay, made a mistake, but we overcome that. But sometimes, individuals just have to, I'll put it to you like this, it's like when you get in this arena right here, you look at it, individuals have issues and sometimes they're never addressed, like she mentioned about the situation there earlier, not addressed. So that's when people, and then if they're going through a lot and they have no one to talk to, then they end up, becoming dependent on different things they shouldn't be dependent on, people, drugs, whatever it may be. So then they fall in that category. And once people get labeled, and the school's good about labeling people quickly. Well, your son, he has a learning disability. Well, it's a learning disability. We all got a learning disability in some fashion. So if that person continues to think he is that type of person, then that person will always hold on to that, And so I think, myself, I don't, it shouldn't be something to be said, but that's what people do in the criminal justice system. They quickly label you, they quickly put you in a category because it's easy to put you in a category because I can kind of control that. And once you start giving people medication, You know what I mean? That's dependency, so they're really controlled. So, you know, I believe that, you know, that everybody can help.
So that it's like a control mechanism
Oh, yeah.
to keep the money coming to,
Well, you know, it's all about money. You know, I was raised in California, so I was probation officer in California. California has a lot of private prisons. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, so I'm here like 3 weeks out of the month and a week in Vegas. So my job at the Office of Economic Impact University is to work with their initiative. And their initiative is to enhance the workforce development, to enhance, let me read it so I got it correctly. So you know exactly, this is what our strategy my director came up with. Enhance opportunities for formerly incarcerated persons through initiatives in collaboration with other federal agencies focused on workforce development in the energy sector. So basically what I do, been tasked to do, is we identified where the jobs were in the energy sector. These jobs are very good paying jobs. So I'm kind of getting off the subject of an area just a tad so you know where I'm coming from. So we identify those jobs which are jobs that are only require certification. That being said, people can get the jobs. Okay, so what we want to make sure that individuals that work with that population are aware of those jobs, but more importantly, that they should go after those jobs. So we have employers that will hire those individuals. They're not jobs that security, all this, but they just have to get a certification. So that's what I'm tasked to do. That's my job. That's what I do. You know, I kind of did a full circle out of college, probation, did the corporate thing. Now I'm back doing this here, but I enjoy doing it. And my boss, this was his vision, and I'm here to make it plain, and that's what I'm here to do.
do you think the juvenile offender should be sentenced as a criminal adult?
That's a really rough, tough question, because some crimes, it happens. You hate to see it happen, but it does. You know, and I think it's a situation where, you know, as a probation officer, where you got a person, and they do something so severe that we'll try them as an adult. And once that occurs, it's really a bad situation. And that's one of the things you really try to instill in kids, that you don't want to do something to be in that situation. And, you know, and you look at crimes. I guess this happened probably about a couple months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. This young man was in Baltimore, and already had been in trouble, problems, 17 years old. And the police officer ran with a police officer. Okay, so they tried he was an adult. So he got life in prison. Now think about this. You're 17 years old, tried as an adult, you go to prison, life. But you're going to probably do 20, 30 years. A friend of mine is the warden in a prison in Las Vegas. And they have a section for individuals that are still young, but they've been tried as adults. So that does occur. But you know, I mean, I don't like to see it, but it does happen because of the severity of the crime. And there's not a lot you can kind of do with that. And that young man, that situation occurred to in Baltimore, he had already been in trouble. And he already was in trouble. And they were doing a crime, and he did this here. So the multitude of things that brought this in. You feel sorry for him, but you have to look at also the person that was killed, family, kids, whole 9 yards. And sometimes we lose sight of that because we have compassion for the person that's getting in trouble, getting the sentencing, and then forget about that person that occurred to. So the answer to your question is, that's a real difficult one. I don't like to see it, but I know at times it's going to happen.
I'm sitting here looking at the culture, the pipeline to prison.
Right.
The the profit prisons.
Right.
How do you change the culture in that they are not going to give up the authority they have to put you in jail or to try to help you because they're in place to make money?
Right.
How do we change that?
You got to change ourselves, because you know it's already out there. You follow what I'm saying? You just made the point. They're there to catch you. It's like I got a daughter. There's a whole day. She don't have to experience the same thing I experienced. Don't have to. And my job is to make sure she doesn't. And our job as males and females, you know, people, we have to make sure those kids don't have to experience that. Because you already know how the system's set up. It's no secret. Everybody knows. So that being said, when I talk to young people, and I was supposed to say, look, we got a chance here to get yourself together. If you don't, I can't help you, because I'm trying to help you as much as I can now, but you have to take a certain amount of responsibility. And a lot of times we kind of blame the system, but still looking at the person. See, and people say, well, the person got issues, they got learning disability, they got this. If I'm capable to go and do a crime and be sophisticated to do what I'm doing, I don't have too much of a learning disability. A lot of times we kind of use those things to cover up for this person's behavior. They got to change behavior. And it stems to me in most cases that, you know, you got a situation where, when I was working my master's, wrote this paper, you got two kids that in the same household. One's going to do right, one's going to do wrong. Well, we don't have no father, have this. A whole bunch of people have no father. A whole bunch of people have a, you know, terrible situation, but they try to get out of that situation. And most of the times, people have to begin to really look at themselves differently. Feel good about yourself. Because if you don't, you would definitely have that pipeline. That's how it's designed. And see, if you, since you know it's already out there and know what it's about, I mean, come on. Sometimes they have to look at it and say, look, I got to change my way. Because it takes the same amount of energy to be a criminal as to do some things right. Same amount of skill set. In some cases, it takes more. So if a person is able to navigate in that system, he sure can navigate with this. It's not going to be easy, because it wasn't easy to do what they're doing. But sometimes we give people passes on that, you know, and we should start and say, look, stop doing what you're doing. Get yourself together. Because if you take the time and energy to spend with that person, to help that person, they should feel good about themselves. Because I have to, you know, feel good about me. I can't expect no one to feel good about myself. You have to say, hey, you look nice today. If I don't feel I look nice today, when I left, I'm waiting for a compliment from somebody else. I have to feel that myself. And a lot of people don't feel that. They wait going outside to have someone to make them feel good about it. Okay. But to answer that question, you know, they have to have a certain amount of responsibility. But again, when you know it's out there, you know how your mother told you, hey, don't go out there, songs over it. You know it, and you still do it.
What did she
and
expect?
then you get a whooping. Oh, mom, I'm sorry. Hey, didn't I tell you don't do this? We'll see what happens.
Same
concept,
thing.
I look at it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got one more question. What are some of the ways that the Office of Economic can be able to help fix this broken criminal system? What are you already have in place, and what are you doing?
Oh, what we have in place? First of all, we got this initiative we're working on. That's the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we have a grant for, just came out, $4 million, $16 million total. And then, you know, those are the two major things we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And my director speaks at a lot of different events, because we work for the Department of Energy, but it's Office of Impact and Diversity. So we always mention these things. And so we're trying to be a catalyst in a sense, because this is an initiative that they normally wouldn't have in the Department of Energy. That's not normally what they do. It's always the Department of Justice, Department of Labor, something like that, not our department. So when we took this on and these monies that we're putting towards that, that's basically what we're doing, and making people aware of it. You know, it's like this coming Wednesday, I have a conference in my office. We're having like 31 people that deal in that area, faith-based people, reentry program people, and some federal agencies to talk about this very issue. Mm-hmm. And it's getting, you know, to me it's more awareness. And since, you know, we have administration there has a, you know, that has some things that we could, hopefully that would change, but I have to give them one credit in one area. And this is what,
okay, go ahead, I got it.
You know, the president said, and I always kind of, he says, when we say hire American, we mean all Americans, including former inmates who have paid their debts to society. So I always say that when I'm talking to people about that, because that's what he's saying. Mm-hmm. If that's what he's saying, then that's what we should be doing. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that being said, you know, with our office, with this, you know, what we've done, we've identified those energy jobs, so we know what they are. And most of the jobs I kind of mentioned to you a little bit. The second thing we're doing networking. Okay, because, you know, one of the key issues people have is dealing with, you know, that most people coming out and being incarcerated is, you know, housing, jobs, that nature. So what we're doing is, you know, networking with the faith-based organization, the reentry programs, also the Department of Labor, Department of Justice, and HUD, okay, housing, all those things. So everybody's aware this is what's going on. So that's one of the biggest other things we're doing. You know, and the third thing we're kind of doing is collaborating with those entities. Mm-hmm. Like here, you know, we collaborate. This is why when we're trying to start game plan, let's try to work this together. So everybody's staking the game. Because, you know, with recidivism, it's high, 60 to 70%. People come back very quickly. 3 to 5 years, they're back. So if one thing with this particular administration is doing that I think is kind of in the right direction, is that they're addressing that issue. And because it's not going to change, because we have to do something about it. You know, we have, you know, other issues, but we don't do something about this situation, we'll be in big trouble. That being said, so this is what our office is trying to do. And, you know, our whole objective is to develop and implement a sustainable initiative that strengthens employment capabilities of formerly incarcerated persons. That's our whole objective. And that's the only reason I'm doing this, because I have a passion for it. I like what I'm doing. And I was fine sitting back in Las Vegas, hanging out, retired, just relaxing. So my good friend took this position. He asked me to come and help him. I'm coming to do this to be sure we get this together. But, you know, I think our whole objective is really to make a difference. And if I can make a difference in any slight way, I'll accomplish what I want to accomplish.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Bell.
The next person I want to ask is Makeyshia Major. She is the mental health specialist. We're going to be working with Makeyshia, and she's a licensed clinical social worker. And she has her own company, which is, give me the name of that company again.
Abundant Counseling Solutions.
Abundant Counseling Solution. We are going to be using your services. I want you to share what kind of services you will be providing to our youth who will be working directly with you.
The type of services that we will be providing to our youth is individual counseling. We'll do an assessment to see where they are, see how their mental health is, if they're depressed, they have anxiety, or there's something else going on within the family. You know, if there's something else happening, then what we will do is stop them at that point and conduct individual, family, group counseling, whatever we need to do in order to get them to the place where they need to be. We plan on doing skill building along with all of the individual counseling and to help them to get to where they need to be.
Okay. We really appreciate you too. Share how your services would change the face of juvenile justice.
Wow. Focusing on family strengths, I think, is the key. To focus on what they already have within their family, that they're strong at, their supports, the community as well, their family's culture, just being able to effectively get them to engage in the services at that moment so that they can move past the moment that they're having. Because a lot of times people do have mental health illnesses that are not diagnosed. And they don't find out that they have these illnesses until they have reached handcuffs, going to jail. And then an assessment is conducted and they find out that there's something else going on. A lot of our youth and our young people have experienced traumatic events in their lives, and their behaviors are directly linked to those traumatic events. And until those situations have been addressed, they will continue to behave the way that they're behaving.
What you say is true. According to a study in Cook County, Illinois, 66% of males and 74% of females are arrested had a mental disorder. Youth Corporation goal is to provide a mental health program that will work with therapeutic counseling sessions. How do you think this will reduce recidivism and help heal the whole family?
Wow, I go back again to the family strengths and the supports, the things that are going on within the family. That's where they're going to find their strength, because a lot of times they go right back to the same places where they came from. And in order for them to get better, we need to make the whole family better, the system better. And that family is the system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. You did a great job. We're going to tap into that a little bit more with Deborah. Deborah is, she does what you call the brain health. It's awareness. And Deborah, I'm just gonna let you do your PowerPoint presentation. As I ask the question, maybe you could do that. Is there IQ learning disability in prison connection?
That's a good question. A lot of people would say that there is, when you consider the fact that often when folks get in the system is because of a lack of funds. In one case, there was an attorney who, on 495, was cut off by mistake by somebody else who was driving. And his anger was so hot, and we'll have slides to show that what he did was to chase the person on 495 for 45 minutes, forced the person over, went to the back of his car, pulled out a baseball bat, and went to the man's windshield. His first call, rather than being to his family, was to a psychiatrist, Amen clinics. They have 7 clinics across the country. People from 120 countries, more than 150, bring SPECT images. Said, I need some help, because if it's determined, they find out what I do, I'm going to be disbarred. What he didn't know was that as he's chasing this guy around the Beltway, as he was chasing this guy around the Beltway, a police officer was chasing him. So when they looked at his actual brain SPECT image, and you get to that, you'll see what is called ring of fire. So what he did was to have the funds to get.
Wait a minute.
You want me to do it?
No, tell me where I'm at.
Keep going. Just keep rolling. You can stop there.
Okay.
He had the funds to get the help that he needed. Often people don't. So they get labeled as being lower IQ because they don't have the jobs to afford to get the medical and the legal assistance that they need. Mm-hmm. And then they go into a cycle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My next question is, what are ANTs and how do ANTs impact the school to prison pipeline?
Okay, could we back up just a little bit? Mm-hmm. One of the other questions that we had was with regards to genetics. Genetics,
okay.
Right?
Due to genetics, are some youth doomed to prison?
Okay.
What's that? What was like talking earlier?
Right. Some of you might have heard of the term epigenetics. And what's determined, or what studies have shown, is that our genes only determine 20 to 30% of our behavior. Mm-hmm. So to say, I can't help it, this is the way my parents or my whoever was that just runs in my family, studies show that that's not true. Science shows that's not true. That behavior goes a lot further than just our genetics. And epigenetics will turn on and off the genes based on the environment. Mm-hmm. Makes sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. A youth can't change his family dynamics. Aren't you from single parents, families, at a higher risk? And if so, how can we change that?
Recently, I heard about CHINS. That's an acronym. I don't know if you've heard of CHINS, right? Children in need of supervision. Just on yesterday, we were talking with a woman who has a PhD, retired school superintendent, school board member, and she was telling us about a family that she's been helping. The mom is working on her PhD. The dad is a retired military officer and has a high-ranking job. Those children are in need of supervision, and it's an quote intact family because of the fact that the parents are being mean. They're working on their advanced degrees, they're networking after work, the children have cell phones, there's a microwave, they have access to the house, but they have a need for supervision. Mm-hmm. So that's not a single parent family, but it goes back to the health of the family, mm-hmm. not how many parents are in the home.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So how can the schools better identify at-risk students?
All children are at risk. If we look at what's happening in the news, we can look at some of the support, we can look at some of the and can keep going. Some of the support for the diet, all those things make all children at risk. And one of the things I showed earlier in the slides is that if we were to redefine our view of schools, schools make up an institution, but an older institution is the family. That's older than the schools. And so if we were to become more aware that the education of a child starts really before the child is born, that environment, whether or not the mother smoked, the mother's diet, what was happening from a toxicity level with that mother, and then in the early life, whether or not that child was touched in a healthy way, all make a difference. I learned something that happened back in history in the 1200s. There was a German emperor who had an idea. His thought was, I wonder what language a child would speak if the child heard no words. Okay, because he had the power, what he did was to take the children from the parents. Right there, that's a stressor. Put the children in the homes of others with strict instructions. Don't talk to the child, don't coddle the child, feed the child. That's it. The emperor says that you receive a child with those instructions, that's what you do. What language do you all think that those children ended up speaking? Yeah, because they died by the age of 2. Now, in more recent years, in Romania, we've seen the same thing happen with children who were in orphanages for about 2 years. We're talking about some serious issues. So we can keep going with it. We're seeing what the brain really does look like. When we were in school, we were taught whatever brain cells you were born with, that was it. You didn't get any more. Now, with SPECT imaging, scientists can see the brain. And we've learned that the brain can change. So, example, I am blind, physically. And you say, look, go across the street. Now, I told you, go across the street. Okay, do you know I'm blind? You don't know that I'm blind, do you? Okay, and that's what's happening in the system. So now with awareness, we see that there are other tools that can help us. Yes, the brain can be changed. It doesn't have to be with drugs. It's been documented that in 79% of the cases, when a diagnosis is made, they're wrong.
What?
79%. So you can keep going. So look at some of the actual brains. Look at a normal brain, violent brain. And someone said earlier that a child's brain doesn't stop developing. You can hold that one there just for a minute. Look at some of these horrendous acts that these children have done. Children, young people. With males, they're about 28 years old when the brain stops growing. Girls, females, about 24. Right? They don't have the capacity. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be held responsible. No, that's why I said when we go back to education, it needs to start earlier, not when they get to the school. It should start in the home. And then, I don't know if you all have seen, you might want to go to YouTube, just YouTube tuning fork. It's fascinating. If you take a tuning fork and hold another tuning fork over here, they will play off each other. So when children are taught, when the educators are taught, when the parents are taught, you know, we can help each other. Let's do some brain healthy things. Let's look at our diet. Yeah, it does make a difference. Let's look at our environment. Let's look at where we're working after school. All those things make a difference. Whether or not we're getting enough sleep, how much digital time we're using. All those things make a difference in the brain. The type of music that we listen to. Recently, I attended a seminar for parents whose children have ADD. And the child psychiatrist who can write prescriptions for Adderall or whatever said to the parents, before you put your children on meds, get them involved in music. And there is a slide in the back here that shows the part of the brain that is impacted when it comes to music, whether you're listening to music, if you're playing music, or if you're doing both. Most kids get in trouble what time during the day? 4 to 7. Bye. Right, nobody's at home. So here's the deal, if they were taking music lessons, they wouldn't be on the streets, right? However, that looks at the way funds are directed so as to support children. So you can look at some of the things, even cholesterol, what it can do with regards to violence, suicide. Did we know that? No, we didn't know that. No, do you ever ask to check? No, I wouldn't have thought that. But again, it's a matter of awareness.
Go back.
Keep going, keep going. See the connection between sugar.
Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no,
Yeah, keep going. Of course. I just learned recently that American wheat has a 90 glycemic index. Sugar is 19. I thought that wheat bread was better. Not now. I know, right? Keep going. So you can talk to a person and tell them, do this. Did you understand I said to do this? You can yell at them. But in this way, they are deaf from a standpoint of their brain health. They can't hear you because there's something that's inherent. Look at the difference in the brain. And knowing that the brain, you can keep going, Clyde, thank you. Notice the connection between schizophrenia and your gastroenterology pieces. I want you to hold here for a moment. This is a person who presented, a young man who presented with a sex addiction. He said, I don't want to be on medication, but I have enough sense to know that I shouldn't be doing whatever he was doing, right? So what the doctor did in respect for him, you can still know that was before the treatment that he got. After 27 treatments of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. See the improvement? Now he's not perfect, but can you see that there are not as many holes? And the holes are not literally holes, it just means that there's not enough blood flow in those areas of the brain, right? Okay, let's keep going. Toxic exposure, what type of work is he doing? Is he painting? Houses, cars, we don't know. And this, you remember I mentioned earlier, ring of fire?
Right.
Hot, hot. Okay, keep going. Anybody concerned? Yeah. Some anxiety is good because it'll make people do what you said, Mr. McDowell. Don't do that or you'll get in trouble. Now we need to equip people with the tools so that they can. Look at this to the left. That was before any intervention, and this is what here. And we're not talking about heavy psychotic drugs because you haven't looked yet to see, but using, starting with supplements, but under the care of licensed medical doctors to get the help that's needed. Now notice this, TBI on the right side, healthy, see the comparison there, you can keep going by. You remember seeing the movie Concussion? Okay, the doctor whom I mentioned was the medical advisor for that movie. Head injury, think about the number of athletes who we hear about who end up with offenses. Does anybody, or has anybody begun to tie the connection between getting hit in the head, you can keep going for the sake of time? Tackle football. Yeah, brain injuries.
TBI.
Yes, traumatic brain injury. If you're playing soccer, you got to think before you hit a soccer ball with your head, what damage is that going to do? Right, and you can stop there for a moment. You notice over here, 2 years of marijuana, age 16. Can you see about midway?
Right.
In the middle, you've got a comparison with a healthy, brain-free drug at age 16. 3 years of crack, age 22 over to the upper left. 4 years of alcohol, 21 years old. What is done to the brain? And then smoking. 3 down in the lower right corner, 3 years of smoking. Right? And then inhaling, 6 years of inhaling, so you're 24. What has it done to your brain? You can keep going. There are 4 circles of care. The biological piece is a person's thyroid all phase. We talked about cholesterol. Do they have low cholesterol? What about their blood sugar? Spiritual. What that means in this setting is, do you live for something bigger than you, or have you made yourself the center of the circle? So a person can have a strong mission. Example, everybody in here is an adult. If a man has too much testosterone, the tendency is, left on its own, is to cheat, right?
What do you mean cheat?
Cheat. If he has too much testosterone, that's sex hormone, that's the tendency. However, if he has a strong enough spiritual base, that is respect for other people and a belief in something other than and bigger than himself, he won't do it.
No.
Right? Okay. Social. Who are the playmates? That's why, as you know, that if a person gets out of a negative situation and they go back to their playmates, give them 30 days, right? They're going back. So changing their playmates. And that's why in the school system, when we talk about minimizing or reducing this pipeline, if the kids in the school system are educated as to what the habits that they're doing will do to their brains, not just today, but long term, then you're changing that community. And the same thing will happen within the home and in the greater community, right? And then it's overlapped a little bit, but then the psychological piece, and that's why the counseling comes in. But it's difficult to do counseling and get effective results when the person has some limitations here that can be taken care of with regards to their brain health. So that's why it all goes together.
But I guess it'd be kind of hard because you don't have the counseling in the school.
Say it again?
You don't have counseling in the school?
Well, guess what? That's why you expand the community so that the teachers are getting the same education that the kids are getting. Everybody's getting the same education. Right, okay. We looked at an earlier slide that showed a man who was overweight. And what science shows is that the more girth we have, the smaller the brain becomes. That in itself could be a motivation.
Oh.
I mentioned the tuning point earlier. You notice that surround yourself with those on the same mission as you. If you have a kid who's going to the Olympics, you don't let him go out and play street ball. Is that not true? Because it has too much to lose, too much at stake, right? The one who wants to be the professional basketball player is not going to play on a cement court because you want to protect that resource. So when we start educating ourselves to look at the brain as the most expensive real estate, most valuable real estate that we have, so we can start turning the corner on this. And then here's the parents, rethink the drive-through dinner, the kids in the backseat, you know, four or five or whatever it is now, right? Because go back to what I just shared with you with regards to that experiment, right, with the kids not being spoken to. Children need their 20 minutes a day. A lot of this could be avoided if we were to change some of our values as adults and give the children what they need, because it helps with their brain development so that they're in a better position to make better decisions. The message then is, you know what, I'm important to somebody. And somebody wants to listen to me and somebody cares about what I'm thinking or saying. That's building a relationship. I mentioned this. Early abandonment issues. Can we do something about this? Yes. Scientifically, yes. I'm giving you the short story. I had like 900 slides in this whole presentation. We can talk about that later, but just a bit of the background. I appreciate what you're doing. And they would have some more slides.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm trying to mark.
Better grades when children eat family meals, less time getting in trouble, they're less likely to smoke and drink, right? I don't know, could there be some times when folks are given an incentive for a meal? You notice? Less time watching TV. Warning to kids, if you think you know it all, you're not listening. Next one, Clyde. Parents, if you think you know it all, you're not listening. And this is a slide I referenced with regards to music. Clyde, you can keep going. Thank you. We talked about ants.
Right.
What in the world are ants?
Right.
Automatic negative thoughts. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
My teacher said it's not going to work. My teacher said I can't do any better.
Right.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah. What he said
Automatic negative thoughts. Thoughts are real. Thoughts can be gauged, they can be measured. So when we learn how to question those thoughts, and not accept something just because I think it or somebody else in a position of authority said that to me, and has really cast my future based on what might not be true.
True.
So when kids can learn to do this with each other, challenge each other's thoughts, so that if they're not true, don't accept them. And that doesn't mean to have this pie in the sky negative and positive. Everything is fun. No, you want to look at realistic thinking. That's the basis. And what has been found to be true is this: when patients have had their brain scanned and they were thinking about something that was negative, the brain history is different from what it is when we focus on things that are true. And one of the things that helps is this, and can replace medication. Really, it's been documented to show scientifically that it's true. Every day, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And what in the world does that do? Well, think about the synapses in the brain, right? And the more you come up with a positive, every thought has a chemical reaction. And we can make ourselves sick sometimes just by the way we think. And if we're not thinking in an accurate way, we're doing ourselves in. So every day, coming up with 3 things that you're grateful for. One woman was on medication, and she did this for 6 weeks. Her husband asked the psychiatrist, "What new medication did you put my wife on?" He said, I didn't put her on any medication. Why? She's so much better. It was because of her focus had changed. And these are tools we can teach each other, right?
That's true.
Then what? Here's a question to encourage and challenge each other. Before you do anything, ask yourself, okay, and then what? After I do whatever I'm thinking about doing, then what? Oh, I hadn't thought that far.
Right.
So that would be a nice poster to put in a room, right?
Yeah.
Some people are conflict seeking. That's the way the brain,
There's a conflict, right?
yeah, but that can be changed.
It can be changed.
With diet and medication, that can be changed. Let's go a little bit further, Mr. Clyde. Road rage shows up in the brain. Okay, you can keep going. Just want you to be aware. Why is she drinking at 17 years old? And why is she oppositional and defiant? She's mad at her mom and daddy. Okay, now we need to get down to why. And that's where the family services come. 2 folks don't have the same symptoms of depression, but the brains look differently. So it would be reasonable to adapt a plan of care based on each person. And if you people, PTSD,
What is that?
post-traumatic stress,
Right here.
notice where the brain is. When it
How you
comes
pronounce
Asperger, you've heard of autism?
it?
Okay, in that same umbrella of family. Even when it comes to ADD, there's 7 different types. Okay, put the child on some Adderall. How about finding out which ADD it is before you put them on Adderall? Maybe it won't work for their ADD. You can see the different types. Okay. And some quotes from those who are concerned about military personnel with TBI and NFL and NHL. And then the cost of dementia, but it's not diagnosed until late. Now, of course, we're talking about young people. So we're talking about a use of resources in a way that will support what's actually going on with, in this case, children's brains. We go a little further. Okay. You see the difference in this little girl, I say little girl. And see from where she went. So the brain can be changed. The person is not doomed from, yeah. Right, okay. Yeah. So it can be turned around. The first thing is to look at this person. This is 20 years later. See how much better the person's brain looks 20 years later because of changes. I think that's normal. And then NFL, players, you see the difference there. This is after some treatment, not finished, but after some treatment. The brain is addicted to oxygen and water. So with kids, 30 minutes a day of aerobic exercise and making sure they get plenty of water. Not Kool-Aid, tell you whatever they're drinking out, but water. and why we need healthy brains. We make better decisions. And it's easier to come through with, okay, so let me think this through before I do it. Because now you're equipping the young person, the youth, with the tools to be able to do that. Dehydration, see over to the left. And then this kind of. Any other questions? I know I ran through that, but we hope that it was helpful. We can talk with you if you want some other answers. Thank you.
It was very good, and we are including that as a part of our, as we said, transforming the juvenile offender into an entrepreneur. Our first 5 weeks deal mostly with the mental health and skill, before we go into skill building, because they really can't do a job, homework, or anything if their mind is not right. So I just want to thank you so much for coming aboard. It's something that not many people are taught, and a lot of people don't know about it. So this is a very good education too. We got one more person, Rodney. Rodney White, who is the workforce development specialist from Virginia Department of Correction. And we met, and it's awesome how he's gonna just allow us to come in and sort of like start a relationship with them before they come out. But you go ahead, and I'm going to say, how do the Virginia Department of Correction help build the inmates' lives before they leave prison?
Well, first of all, I'm going to change some of the wording because some of it is branding. Returned citizens. Returning citizens.
Okay.
So we want to move away from some of those terminologies,
Okay.
ex-offenders, felons, and all that. So they're returning citizens. So I deal with returning citizens. And when they come home, they are returned citizens. Myself being one. So one of the things that we've really been fortunate with is our director now, Director Clark, came in about 2007 with a healing environment approach. And what he did was he took what you would take in a medical community, and he brought that in and used it as a cognitive therapy. So what we have now within the Department of Corrections is we have evidence-based practice. So we're not using the whole warm and fuzzy programs and hug a thug. That's not what we're about in the Virginia Department of Corrections. We're using T for C, Thank You for a Change, PREP, Matrix. We're using programs that have been researched and tried and true programs. So if it's not evidence-based practice, we're not doing it within the Department of Corrections. So that's one of the great things. And then what we started was a cognitive community. So most, not all, because based on your criminal sentence or where you're actually housed at, meaning that if someone comes in with a small sentence, they may not make it to a full institution. They may only do their time within a jail setting. So I want to kind of put that disclaimer out there now. But what we have is we have cognitive communities within side of the prison where men are in what they call a structured community. They have structure as a senior coordinator. They have information. And what they do is they go through a daily program which is allowed to give them their structure. And the structure is their strength. So one of the things that we're doing is building that structure within them, because a lot of times men and women come in, they lack the structure. And so we're giving them that, and we're working at a therapeutic communities, cognitive, and we're giving them the NA, we're giving them resources. And what I facilitate is a ready-to-work program. So what you came in that day was a resource fair or job fair where I actually have community resources, and normally 6 months or less, I start getting them with those resources because, again, it's relevant. If I give it to a guy that's 15 years out, what good use of it? And teaching adults, you know that it has to be relevant. If it's not relevant, they don't need to learn it. You know, what's used to coming into a class that's not relevant. So a lot of times what we do is time-based to give them those skills and give them those resources that are relevant to their time, to their sentence. Again, with the program you talked about, a guy 5 years out, he doesn't want to sit in that because he's saying, man, you're not going to have that for me. But a guy that's 6 weeks out, he's very much interested in knowing those programs or coming into a program and seeing an entrepreneurial program on knowing what they can do, because again, we're doing it time-based. So a lot of times what we're doing now, we're giving them the resources they need at the appropriate time. But reentry starts from the moment that they get into the facility.
Okay.
So we're making assessments based on, was it alcohol use, was it an educational drop? Because again, that's a common denominator. A lot of times you'll see returned citizens, they lack education. So we can get them educated, yes.
Okay. What is restricted housing?
Restricted housing, well, I guess you hear from the movies, the whole special housing units, and really, the Virginia Department of Corrections, again, I'm a returned citizen. I did 15 and a half years in prison myself. So I'm speaking on this not just from the perspective of working as a, I guess you want to say, a corrections, employee, but also a person having had to be in a restricted housing. So it has changed. We've initiated a program now, and the report just came out that I think it's like 24%. I had to write those numbers down. I want to make sure I get them right. Report that came out October 11th of this year, and right now we're looking at about 14 days is the amount of time that a person would spend in restricted housing, because we know that that whole process is a very negative process. We know that the results of having someone in long-term restricted housing, the amount of damage that it does mentally to them is phenomenal. So right now we're looking at over 25% of them are less than 5 days. But we gotta remember the environment. Sometimes a person is going in there, it may be a protection.
Okay.
You may have a situation where you're saying we have to separate this person due to a health issue, due to a threat issue, based on the fact that they may be involved in some activities. So restrictive housing will be with a part of a prison environment, because we have to separate people. We have to have that ability to do that. But also, I will say from our perspective, we have over 30,000 returning citizens within the Department of Correction, and we have fewer than 50 in long term. And most of those are like at Red Onion, and they're catching a lot of heat for that. So again, we're working on it, but it is a challenge to any correctional system in how to address this, because it's been done this way for so long.
Okay. Okay.
I'm good.
Are there any questions? Thank you so
Well,
much.
I did want to add one more thing, because I was asked what are the responsibilities of workforce specialists and how did I receive this position. I want to add this in. I received it, and I tell my men this. I tell them I received it. I did 15 and a half years in prison. I received it because of my passion towards working with this environment. But I didn't get the job because I'm a return citizen. I got the job because I got out of prison and got an education. First a bachelor's degree, and then a master's degree in adult education. So my thought is that, for 8, and I brought this, I went in my drawing family. This was my statewide volunteer badge that I had for 8 years. So I did the job that I'm doing now for free for 8 years. I say that because, this is what I want to resonate to this group. I think McDowell probably said it best. He said that mercenaries will beat draftees, but volunteers will crush them all. When you have a desire and a passion to work in this, as you say, I came back to do this, and the amount of passion we have is really what brought me to this job. I had to apply for the job and everything. I was working in community college. I didn't have to go through a prison and get stripped down every day just going to work, because that's what you came inside. Whether inmate or not, or offender or not, or returns or not, you're going to go through a process. So I gave up walking from my parking lot into an office to go in and do this, because this is one thing I want you to understand when you're working with this. It's an inside job. I need you to come inside to help me change the mindset and the culture of not just the returning citizen, but also the staff. Because it's an institution within an institution within an institution. And you worked in it. And it's an institutional mindset that goes just beyond. So I need you to come in, because I need you to show my staff the better way to deal with this demographic. I need you to show them that, hey, there is a better way to get better results than you've been getting. So I need that help. So I welcome you in. So if you're trying to come in my facility or anywhere in the Virginia Department of Corrections, let me help facilitate that process for you. That's what I got.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, I had one question I wanted to ask Ms. Charity. You had said something about the brain, and I'm looking at they say the police officers commit suicide more so than the prison inmates. Any rationale to that?
Let's go back to thinking. With regards to suicide, it's been determined that the person does not want to die, but they don't know a better way to handle the problem. So what they do, what an individual does, is take a permanent solution for a temporary problem. And that's where improved thinking, first of all, cleaning up my brain, if you will, so that I can think better, then changing my circle of friends. My circle of friends could be what I watch on TV every night, right? What I read, the people to whom I listen. So that I'm saying there's another way to do this. It's opening up the thinking by improving the diet. Maybe I'm working painting cars. And maybe the place where I'm working is not properly ventilated. That's messing with my most valuable resource, real estate that I have, the brain.
Okay.
And then if a person is seeing, I was with an EMT yesterday. She's been an EMT for more than 30 years. We had dinner, and she's a first responder. I'm telling you, and listening to her, it was as if she were on a treadmill. Okay. So I've been trained to listen. She's dealing with a co-worker whose best friend committed suicide 4 years ago, also a first responder. And he left a note for his best friend, and he decided to take his life at a place that he knew his best friend would find him. And 2 days from now, it will be the 4th year anniversary of that. So she's watching him because she's trained to watch and see these kinds of things. You go to dinner with her, she's not sitting with her back to the door. Just know that, okay? She's going to take the seat in the corner so that she can stay in the room. That's how she's been trained. So she's getting the spill-off, if you will, of what her work, remember I talked about the tuning fork?
Mm-hmm.
She is getting the spill-off, if you will, or the runoff from her workmate who's dealing with this. So if you're dealing in those kinds of environment, you're getting a lot of negative stuff, and maybe that's just part of your job at a time. That's when every so many weeks it's a good idea.
To get off.
Yeah, yeah. I do reflexology, and one of the things that I was trained is when you're doing reflexology, you have to shake it off, because we are tired as humans. We might not think we are, but we're all tired. And if you're pulling on too many people's negativism, then you have to shake it off. Not by getting drunk or some other way that's not going to be good for your brain and make it harder for you to process. But you got to be aware of it, that mindfulness. You say, maybe I need to go to the museum, or maybe I need to go to a concert, or maybe I need to listen to a specific classical music. I have a whole list of classical music that can help with the retraining of the brain. And the short answer would be, have the police officers been trained? Do they know how to take care of themselves so that they can continue to take care of other people?
Okay, okay.
Makes sense?
I'm gonna make a comment, and then I'm gonna be quiet. You talked about music.
Yes.
The last 3 days, and you talking about classical music, but the last 3 days,
Always classical.
for the last 3 days, I've been doing the Isaac Hayes, that Earth, Wind, and Fire. But it seems as if I listen to the music, it just calms me right on down.
And can I tell you something I just learned from a former neurosurgeon?
What?
Who is a neuroscientist. He's 65 years old, and he's learning to play the cello. And I said, oh, my husband plays cello. He said the sound of a cello is the closest to the sound of the human voice.
Okay.
That
Come on.
is one of the programs that we do have in place that we call it entrepreneur. And it's where they be able to have the youth to actually create their own music, put in their own feelings, and then they will be able to sell it all the time. We are making them entrepreneurs. They be able to sell it through the radio, through the TV, through podcasts. Again, we are making them entrepreneurs. But right now, I want to turn it over to my third table, Mr. Chris Archie. And you know, I met Chris whilst I was coming here to George Mason University. He helped me put together a study lab. He helped me do car washing. He helped me to really to get my,
Hands dirty.
George Mason University students to come and be a mentor. I believe you had a mentor, right? I just want you to share your story.
Thank you. Hi everybody, my name is Chris Archie. I'm the founder and CEO of Lionheart Youth Outreach Incorporated. Thank y'all for coming. Sitting here is a blessing for me because it was a time I didn't think I would be able to sit here. I was incarcerated from the age of like 15 to just recently 2014, just off and on, you know, little stuff. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing. God is good. So I met Miss Charity in 2014. I came home April 23rd, 2014 from doing 8.5 years in the Department of Corrections, Virginia Department of Corrections. And one of my father's brothers at a men's meeting that they was having told me about Miss Charity, and that's how we linked up. She was having a car wash. She was just now starting. She had the vision. She had a vision of her youth outreach services. So I was there, and then it just giving my story. My story is just about, you know, just being young and dumb, basically. Getting incarcerated because I didn't, you know, the code, the I don't snitch code. So I got incarcerated because of that. You know, can't get it back. But I grew stronger while I was locked up, though. I went to school, worked out, played basketball. I re-educated myself on the things that I thought held value, didn't hold value. So I just re-educated myself on what it is that I needed to become as a man. Have a plumbing trade. I also know how to do electrical work, HVAC work. 3 months before I was scheduled to be released, I enrolled in the school. So I went to Nova. Played semi-pro football that same year, played college basketball for Nova that same year, and got a scholarship to go to Allen University in Columbia, South Carolina. My major is interdisciplinary studies. I study sociology, psychology, and social work. Lionheart Youth Outreach Incorporated, it was formed while I was incarcerated, just from having meetings with fellas, you know, just sitting around and just talking about our life. So I just took that concept and just looked at myself and looked at how I don't want it to affect other kids out there. How can I stop kids from my hood, my neighborhood, from getting locked up, from going down the path that I went? Because I'm a bright young man, but I just chose the wrong friends. Like a lot of other young men out there that's doing it right now. My outlet was always sports. And like you said, music. Love music. Listen to everything. But it was just something else. It was always that spirit in me to help others that I love. So it was just through, I learned through my struggle. I learned through being incarcerated what it is, like, what's my purpose. So that's how everything started with me. So now I just go around and try to help other, like right now Lionheart is, we're partnering with NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. I'm trying to partner with them in Prince William County. My oldest son is 4 years old, he has autism, so I do a lot of things with Autism Speaks and stuff like that. So My program is special needs, so I'm reconstructuring everything for my nonprofit to do special needs. I've done homeless sleep outs. That's a big part of what I do. Mentoring is a big part of what I do. I just see myself as an advocate to the communities. I go out there. Well, a lot of people, they talk about it, but they're not going to do it though. That's how I feel. That's just my personal feeling. Like, you can tell a kid, I got you, but they want the action. They don't want the words, because that's when you lose them. Because it's like Santa Claus. You can tell a kid Santa Claus coming, but if they don't see it, then they're going to stop believing you at some point. So it's like what I try to do, I try to bust my tail to make it happen. If I say that I'm going to help you, I'm going to try to give you every resource that I can to help you. I'm working with a young man right now who he did a break in the entering. He's almost 18. And I'm just telling him about my life. Like, dog, you don't want to go to jail. That's, once you get that felony on your record, it's hard. It's an uphill battle. I just got off probation in April, and I just got my rights restored. So it's hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to listen to your parents. Your friends, if they telling you to do the wrong thing, they're not your friends. Because if I truly want to see you elevate, I'm going to be like, nah, man, look, do this. He likes to play basketball. But due to this setback, he might not, you know, it's going to be a hard road. I'm not going to tell him that he's not going to be able to do it, but it's going to take you, we got to develop a concept. If this don't work, then you're going to have to do this. You know, so that's where I stand at. That's where everybody around me. I got my friend, he's here. He's a paralegal. He was incarcerated with me, but now he's working with lawyers. So these are the type of men that I have around me now. I don't have no old baggage around me. So I just love what I do. I love to help. And then earlier I heard Miss Guzman. She stated a fact. It's hard when you have a felony conviction. It's hard to get the job that you want, because, like I said, I went to Salisbury University on the Eastern Shore. That's where I graduated from. Go Go's. I'm sorry. But like I said, my degree interdisciplinary studies, so I can help everything. But it's hard for me to get where I want to be because of my past. That's when the second chance thing come in. If I already done my time, I served my time. I did everything. I'm off probation, everything. When is my second chance coming? But the type of person I am, don't worry about it. I'm gonna make it happen. That's how I feel. So I know God got me, and I know I just gotta keep pushing. So that's what I try to teach and talk to other people about, like other kids. Just, you gotta keep pushing. This door gonna close. Like the brother said, Mr. Rodney said, I've been through the whole preps class when I was incarcerated, the reentry program. I was in Coffeewood, and Coffeewood has the reentry program. And one of the things that was key to me was the preps class, because it basically broke down everything that you were going to face when it was time for your release. Everything. From how you were going to feel to how, like, it's called the honeymoon phase. When you go home in 2 weeks, you glowing, everybody, oh, welcome back. But then after that happens, you're just another person. So I went through that whole process. And the biggest thing for me was the job fair. Because these were companies that were coming inside of a prison that wanted to hire you. Why wouldn't I? You know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't I go here and get all the information that I can? Because I know I'm at a disadvantage once I go home. So I took advantage of everything. And what really helped me, like I said, it was school, and then my mindset to never go back. So I try to help other kids see that. Try to connect them. A lot of kids love sports. So if I can sit there and play basketball with you or throw a football with you, but while I'm talking to you, I got you. I can help you. I know I can't help all of them, but the ones that I can, I'm going to get. So that's just my main, that's where I fit in that. And I'm here for everybody. I'm here for everybody. My wife sometimes get mad at me for helping too much, but But that's just that's who I am though. Yes, sir.
It's almost like saying we do things backwards. Because of the degree you have and the experience you had, it seems as if you'd be the first one to get the job, to go out there to help, because of the experience you had in the street. But for some unknown reason, it don't work that way. Can anybody explain that? You are able to help them the most because of the experience you have, but that person who gets the job never been through whatever you've been through.
It's because they look at, this is what I think, this is an opinion. I think it's because of the nature, like whatever crime that you do, you automatically, in some people's mind, they'll tell you this, and I've been through it so many times. Oh yeah, you served your time, I feel for you. But then it's like, I don't get the job for it. It's like, you say you sympathize with me, you see what I'm doing now, like from incarceration, I did all of this, but because of this mistake, you still look at that mistake.
I'd like to add something to that. Initially, when I walked out of prison, one of my goals was I wanted to teach at a high school. Not just in a high school, one of the ones in my neighborhood. So I got the degree, because I knew whether the felony wasn't going to stop me from getting a job. Not having a degree was going to stop me. Because a person without a felony could not get that job if they didn't have a degree. So if you look at the job description, it's going to say what's required. A degree. Am I correct? It's not going to say felony or no felony. So I said, the first thing I do, I got to get the degree. So I got the degree, and then I found out, guess what? They don't hire felons to teach in the high school. You can't teach in public schools. Not because I got a sex crime or anything, I got a drug crime, a gun crime. I won't be able to teach in that school. But I said, why should I stop me from teaching? So guess where I applied for a position at? At a community college. I'm teaching young adults. They don't stop me. So what I did was I found a workaround. But now, how did I get into community college? I got into community college because when I was taking my master's program, I decided to do an internship at a community college. So I'm going back to the volunteering. So when I pulled out my card for me working at the state, I was a state volunteer for 8 years, going into prisons on my own dime. So when it came time for the position, you couldn't deny me the position and say, well, you ain't gonna hire me as a felon, because guess what? I've been coming to 8 years with no problems. Never bought no dope in here, never did any of those things. So now what I'm saying to you, brother, is your ability to create, because on the street, you would not allow, if the police was there on Thursday, you said, well, I'm not going to sell dope on Thursday, I know the police there. You're going to find a way to get that to market. So those skills transfer, as you were saying. So you use those transferable skills. So my transferable skill was logistics in the game. So I'm saying, how do I get myself into this community college? So I became an advisor, and I volunteered for everything I could in the school. And the next thing I know, I was the assistant director for student life, and I was running the minority male mentoring program, which is what I had wanted to do all the time. But now I'm doing it in Guilford County. I'm doing it in North Carolina at a community college. So now all of that has been overcome because guess what? My volunteering
spoke for itself.
Showed people and validated me, because now they're not looking at me as a felon, they're looking at me as the best volunteer, because I set that pattern at the University of Richmond, working in street law, going into schools, because they're saying, hey, who is this guy? And when the story came up, well, he's a felon, but I'm passionate. That's what overcomes. So that's what's going to overcome all of that. So that's my point to you, is that if you find an opportunity to go in and work for free, that's when you're going to get everything. If you find that opportunity to go in there, if you go to that school and say, hey, I just want to help out, somebody's going to recognize that and say, you know what? The man that comes here for nothing, I'd rather hire him than the 9 people that got MBAs and PhDs and all that, because they're going to get the job done and the kids resonate with him, and that's how I got the position. And that's why I will say this unequivocally, I am the best offender workforce development specialist in the state of Virginia, bar none. And they will tell you that. Because guess what, I'm here on the third.
Hey, let me get your card. You going to close it out?
Yes,
I just had a comment, because I've heard you say about the returning citizens, and I've heard and I'm hearing you all say that, okay, I've paid my time, right, or I've paid my dues. So I just wonder, is that coming from a mentality where, okay, now you owe me something because I've paid, I've done what you said I had to do? Or should it be coming from a mentality that, okay, I made some mistakes, now I have to kind of start from the bottom and come back up? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, ma'am. See, when I say like I paid my due, it's like I'm ready to start over. Like I've done everything like that what I got in trouble for, I know it's still there, but it's like, let me start over. Let me prove myself to you now. Like that's what I mean. That's what I mean when I said it. Like, man, I paid my dues, man. Let me start over. Like let me go. Let me show you that I can do X, Y, and Z. Like, let me prove myself to you. Something like what he was saying. Like, let me start right here. I know I can't be the head right now, so let me start right here. So, like, that's what I mean when I say it. But some people actually think like that, though. Some people, man, I paid my dues, man, leave me alone. But you gotta get back. Because I know nothing is going to be handed to me, so let me work for it. Teach me. Let me show you. That's my mentality.
I heard that.
Good, good.
You close?
All right, are there any more questions? Any more questions?
All right, is everybody ready to go?
Okay, I got
Go ahead.
something else to say. Youth Corporation, Inc. was developed for people who have been in trouble with the law. It was developed to say, transform the juvenile offender
Come this way.
into, or he said return citizen, into an entrepreneur. So in order to do that, what we do is we go out and we meet and we collaborate with different individuals who have the same vision that we do. So what we have created is what we call CHARMS. CHARMS is community, health, and united, building better societies. Our ultimate goal, and we have opened up our first CHARM in Holland Springs, Virginia. And in it, we have a construction company.
That's right.
We have a construction company in there, and we actually, when we was there at your facility,
Absolutely, those guys are excited.
they were excited because we don't have anything like this. I know not in Virginia. And it's where they can actually live on the facility that is 17 and a half years old to, say, 23. They can actually live there. But in that facility, we call this like it's not a halfway house. That's halfway. We don't go halfway. We go all the way. Okay? It's not halfway. It's a business custodian. We are a youth corporation, Inc., and it is a corporation. We are teaching our young people how to be able to invest. You see the difference? We investing not only into the lives of our young people, but in the community. So how many of you know? And just be frank, be honest. How many of you know people our color are actually out there teaching their young people how to invest?
We ain't doing it. Not enough.
We need to do that. Because we have what? Like values. Everybody in here that came in here today, you came in here because you was interested in making a difference and to make it happen.
True.
So I'm telling you the way, or I'm suggesting the way, that you can be able to help make it happen. Use your gifts and your talents that you have. And you know what? I want to thank Patty. Patty, come on, Patty. Patty, Patty's so blessed. Oh my God. I just thank her so much. We fell in love when we first met, didn't we? Tell them a little bit about
Sure. So I'm the Director of SAIL at Social Action and Integrative Learning. We're Mason's Community Engagement Center, connecting students, faculty, and staff in the community. And we're just thrilled that you're all here on a Saturday night. So thank you for everything that you've done and for all of you for your really incredible words.
And so our goal is to get the college students where they can actually come and help run the jobs, right? Where they will be mentors to the returned citizens, those one who's socially challenged. Where they will be able to receive college credit, they will be able to receive a salary, and they will be able to gain on-the-job experience. And at the same time, providing services for the at-risk youth who need it. You can do this by saying, hey, I want to do some advertisement, I want to do some sponsorship, this is the script. Pick up a package, take a look at it, and it's on RETV. We got one of the best camera personalities around, right, Clyde? Who's up there with big video, who will be videoing everything that we do, and we will also be teaching the entrepreneur, where they will be able to create their own TV and television show. They are actually building their own RETV within the facility, so they have their own little television and radio show in there. And this TV program we have is called Dawn Rising. Dawn Rising is where we're advertising the people who are making a difference, to show the positive of what can be happening when we come together, unite together, building better societies. You have something you want to say? Nothing? Hi, I believe we got Micah Prendis here. Micah, thank you for coming. You have something you'd like to share?
No, just thank you for your leadership and energy in this area. It's moving to see the people who've been inspired and work with you. Some of these young men were very inspirational in their transformation.
Do anybody else have anything they'd like to share? In other words, we want to hear the voices of the people.
Okay.
All right.
That's it?
We got refreshments over there.